What if the next war doesn't start with boots on the ground or planes in the sky, but with a keystroke from halfway across the world? Picture this. Power grids failing, financial systems collapsing, and military secrets exposed, all without a single missile fired. Welcome to the silent battlefield of cyber warfare, where the weapons are code and the stakes are global stability. Cyber warfare, the invisible battlefield. Gone are the days when wars were fought only in trenches or on open seas. Today, the battlefield has shifted into cyberspace, a realm where nations deploy armies of hackers instead of soldiers. It's a war where the targets aren't just military installations. They're your bank account, your hospital, and your power supply. Countries like the US, Russia, and China have already invested billions in cyber defense and offense, building arsenals of digital tools capable of causing widespread disruption. But what happens when a single cyber attack spirals out of control, dragging nations into a conflict they can't escape? The anatomy of a cyber attack. Let's break down how cyber warfare works. Imagine a hacker infiltrates a critical infrastructure system, a power plant, for instance. With just a few lines of code, they can shut down electricity for millions, causing chaos, panic, and even fatalities. Then there are data breaches. Hackers can steal classified information, manipulate public perception through disinformation campaigns, or even sabotage military operations by exposing strategies and weaknesses. The danger lies not just in the attack itself, but in the chain reaction it triggers. A compromised banking system could lead to economic collapse. A manipulated election could destabilize entire governments. The possibilities are endless and terrifying. The players in the cyber arms race. The United States leads the pack with its formidable cyber capabilities, closely followed by China and Russia. Each of these superpowers has its own agenda, using cyber tools not just for defense, but also to assert dominance and influence. China has mastered intellectual property theft, hacking into Western companies to steal trade secrets and gain a competitive edge. Russia, on the other hand, excels in disinformation, using cyber tools to manipulate elections and sow discord. And let's not forget North Korea, a wild card in the cyber game, funding its regime through ransomware attacks and cryptocurrency heists. But it's not just nation-states. Cyber warfare has democratized conflict, giving rise to independent hacking groups and even lone wolves capable of wielding immense power. Flashpoints of cyber conflict. The world has already seen glimpses of how cyber attacks can escalate tensions. Stuxnet. In 2010, the Stuxnet worm, allegedly developed by the US and Israel, targeted Iran's nuclear facilities, setting back its program by years. But it also set a dangerous precedent for weaponizing cyber tools. SolarWinds hack. In 2020, a Russian-linked group infiltrated US government agencies and private companies, exposing vulnerabilities in even the most secure systems. Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. A single ransomware attack in 2021 disrupted fuel supplies across the US East Coast, highlighting the fragility of critical infrastructure. Each of these events shows how cyber attacks can quickly escalate from isolated incidents to national or even global crises. The domino effect of cyber escalation. Here's the scariest part. Cyber warfare doesn't operate in isolation. A single cyber attack can trigger a chain reaction of retaliation, misunderstandings, and miscalculations. Imagine this scenario. A cyber attack disables a nation's air defense system. That country, believing it's under physical attack, launches a preemptive strike. What began as a digital incursion has now escalated into an all-out war. Cyber warfare blurs the lines between attack and defense, making it harder for nations to gauge intent. This uncertainty increases the risk of overreaction, with devastating consequences. The role of private companies. Here's a twist. Some of the biggest players in cyber defense aren't governments, they're private tech companies. Firms like Microsoft, Google, and cybersecurity firms are on the front lines, battling to prevent attacks on critical infrastructure and sensitive data. But this raises a troubling question. Should private companies bear the responsibility for defending against threats that could spark global conflict? And what happens when these companies themselves become targets? How cyber warfare could spark World War III. Economic collapse. A large-scale cyber attack on global financial systems could destabilize economies, leading to panic, resource hoarding, and eventual military confrontations. Misattribution. In cyberspace, it's often difficult to determine who launched an attack. This ambiguity could lead to false accusations and retaliatory strikes. Alliances under strain. NATO's Mutual Defense Clause applies to cyberattacks, meaning a digital assault on one member could drag the entire alliance into conflict. Is cyber diplomacy the answer? Amid the growing threat, there's a glimmer of hope. Cyber diplomacy. Nations are beginning to establish norms and agreements to prevent the most catastrophic outcomes of cyber warfare. But these efforts are fragile, and enforcement remains a challenge. The question is whether these diplomatic initiatives can keep pace with the rapidly evolving capabilities of cyber weapons. The big picture. A silent but explosive threat. Cyber warfare is the ultimate silent threat, a battle fought in the shadows with consequences that could reverberate across the globe. As nations race to outsmart each other in this digital arms race, the stakes couldn't be higher. The wars of tomorrow may not start with a bang but with a quiet keystroke. The question is, will the world be ready to respond before it's too late?